Okay, boys and girls, Chapter 7, The Cricket Cage. That same night, after the Badlands had gone home, Chester was telling Harry and Tucker about his trip to Chinatown. The cat and the mouse were sitting on the shelf, and Chester Cricket was crouched under the bell in the cage, and every minute or so Tucker would get up and walk over to the other side of the pagoda, and he was overcome with admiration for it.
Yes, and Mr. Fong gave Mario a fortune cookie too, Chester said.
Oh, I am very fond of Chinese food myself, said Harry. I often browse through the garbage cans in downtown Chinatown. Tucker Mouse stopped, gaping at the cricket cage long enough to say, Once I thought of living down there. But those Chinese make funny dishes. They make a soup out of bird's nest and stew out of shark fins, and they could make a souffle out of a mouse. I decided I need to stay away. And a low rumble of a chuckle came from Harry Cat's throat. Listen to the mouse, he said, and gave Tucker a pat on the back that sent him rolling over and over. Easy, Harry, said Tucker, picking himself up. You don't even know your own strength. And he stood up on his hind legs and looked in through the red-painted bars of the cage. What a palace! Beautiful! You could feel like a king living in a place like this.
Why, yes, said Chester, but I am not so keen on staying in a cage. I'm more used to the tree stumps and holes in the ground. It makes me sort of nervous to be locked in there.
Well, do you want to come out? Said Harry, and he sprung one of his nails out of the pad of his right forepaw and lifted the latch on the gate to the cage. Chester pushed the gate, and it swung open, and he jumped out.
Oh, it feels nice to be free, he said, jumping around the shelf. There's nothing like freedom.
Say, Chester, could I go in for a minute? I was never in a pagoda before, said Tucker.
Oh, yes, go right ahead, said Chester.
And Tucker scrambled through the gate and into the cage and pranced all around inside of it, and he lay down first on one side and then on the other and then on his back. Well, if only I had a silk robe, he said, standing up on his hind legs again and resting one paw on a bar. I feel like the Emperor of China. Well, how do I look, Harry? You look like a mouse in a trap, said Harry. Every mouse should end up in a trap so nice, said Tucker.
Well, do you want to sleep in the cage? Said Chester.
So here they are. Check out the pagoda right here, guys.
Oh, could I?
Exclaimed the mouse. His idea of luxury was to spend the night in such surroundings.
Well, sure. I prefer the matchbox anyway.
Well, there's only one thing, said Tucker, stamping his left hind leg. This floor, it's too hard to sleep on. Well, I'll go over and get a bunch of paper from the drained pipe, said Harry. No, it'll make a mess. We don't want to get Chester into trouble with the Badlands. And he hesitated. Well, maybe we could find something here.
Well, how about a piece of a Kleenex? Suggested Chester. That's nice and soft.
Oh, a Kleenex would be good. But I was wondering. Oh, come on, Tucker, said Harry Cat. You've got something on your mind? Let's have it.
Well, I sort of thought that if there were any dollar bills in the cash register.
Well, Harry burst out laughing.
You might know, he said to Chester, who but this mouse would want to sleep on dollar bills?
Chester jumped into the cash register drawer, which was open as usual.
There's a few dollars in here, he called. Plenty to make a mattress. Psst, put some here, please.
So Chester passed the first dollar bill to Harry Cat, who took it over to the cage and pushed it through the gate. Tucker took hold on one end of the bill and shook it out like a blanket. It was old and rumply.
Careful that you don't rip it, said Harry. I wouldn't rip it. This is one mouse who knows the value of $1.
Harry brought over the second dollar. It was newer and stiffer than the first.
Let me see,
said Tucker. Then he lifted a corner of each of the bill, one in either palm.
This new one can go on the bottom. I like a crisp, clean sheet, and I'll pull the older one over for a cover. Now a pillow is what I need. Please look in the cash register again.
So Harry and Chester searched the compartments of the open drawer. There was a little loose change, but not much.
Well, how about a 50-cent piece? Said Harry. No, that is too flat, said Tucker.
And the rear half of the drawer was still inside the cash register. So Chester crawled back. It was dark and he couldn't see where he was going. He felt around until his head bumped against something. Whatever it was, it seemed to be big and round. Chester pushed and shoved and finally got it back out into the dim light of the newsstand. It was one of Mama Bellamy's earrings, shaped like a seashell, with a sparkling little stone all over it.
Would an earring do? He shouted to Tucker. Well, I don't know. Well, it looks as if it is covered with diamonds, said Harry. Well, then that is perfect. Send it along.
So Harry lifted the earring into the cage. Tucker examined it carefully like a jeweler.
I think these are fake diamonds. Well, yes, but it's very pretty, said Chester,
who had jumped up beside them.
Well, I guess it'll do.
And he lay down on his side on the new dollar bill and rested his head on the earring and pulled the old dollar up over him. Chester and Harry heard him draw a deep breath of contentment.
I'm sleeping on money inside of a palace. It's a dream come true.
Harry Cat purred his chuckle.
Well, good night, Chester, he said. I'm going back to the drain pipe where I can stretch out.
And he jumped to the floor.
Good night, Harry, said Chester.
Soft and silent as a shadow, Harry slipped out the opening of the side of the newsstand and glided over to the drain pipe. Chester hopped into his matchbox. He had gotten to like the feeling of the Kleenex. It was almost like a spongy wood from his old tree, and felt much more like home than that cricket cage. Now they each had their own place to sleep.
Good night, Tucker. Oh, good night, Chester.
And Chester Cricket burrowed down deeper into the Kleenex. He was beginning to enjoy life in New York. Just because he fell asleep, he heard Tucker Mouse singing happily in the cage. So here's Tucker.
That's it, boys and girls.